Mojang has just revealed that their next game drop will be ketchup and mustard themed. Seriously though, this update announcement has been memed, mostly for being small, but was what we saw in yesterday's reveal all? Well, today I'm looking into the secrets you might have missed, like this Dungeons 2 teaser, or the weirder things you can do with the slime mobs, or indeed, there's the weird world of a secret mob that we actually managed to miss, because I'm going to start with my favorite thing from r/IBXToyCat, which by the way is me. You can subscribe to this channel to see more daily news like that, but let's start with this. It seems like a silly post. Is a new sulfur spider coming? And honestly, my first reaction was, you can't just put a question mark on a spider and say it's coming, but actually there's compelling evidence here. There are two brand new block sets coming to the summer drop. The first of these is sulfur, spelt with an F because it's the chemical, apparently that's common, and then the second is cinnabar. Sulfur has a chisel block that looks like the brand new slime mob we already know about, but then if we look at cinnabar chisel blocks, they have this on them. This looks an awful lot like a spider, you might say, and what's interesting is that there are around 13 chisel blocks in Minecraft. Here is the list. There's a weird 14th Bedrock exclusive, and of those, 7 have mobs which feature in the game. This makes it a pretty decent rule to say that if there is something on a chisel block, it's probably going to be in the game, but specifically if they make reference to a mob, it is usually something that shows up. And so is there going to be a cinnabar spider coming? This seems like it is a hint about something they're doing in the future of this update, something which is backed up by that ketchup and mustard comment I made earlier. But before we come into that, we need to talk about Dungeons 2. Minecraft Dungeons 2 was officially announced yesterday. It is coming in 2026 for all of these platforms, and interestingly enough, it clearly references the Ancient City portal, but it also references something you might not have missed, because if you watch the trailer, it all looks perfectly normal until...
All was well, until...
That's right, there's a hidden QR code, which if you decide to snip it and take out, and then do a little bit of contrast work with, you can see it's a spooky Minecraft Dungeons QR code. It's got the little soul in the middle, and if you decide to scan this, do you know where it takes you? Well, you can test this for yourself, but here's what it will take you to. Okay, what the heck did we just watch there? I do not know, but I do know it looks like there's a warden with a really long neck, and so why is he doing this and why would they hide this? Well, it seems as though Minecraft are going for a little bit of a spooky here, because what is he and what is this title? Well, thankfully, I have at least good theorized answers for you, because if we look at this title, it's clearly a cipher, and to basically decipher this, you have to move every letter by a certain amount, and to make sure that you don't know what that amount is, you'd need to know what the code word is, but if we put this into a keyword cipher with Spicewood as our keyword, it turns into unlock the path. This is weird, but it gets even weirder if you look at the character in the video. So first of all, I need to show you this just so you understand the reference. Here is Thingy's already having made the sulfur slime a day later, and it's a piston in a sulfur slime. As you can see, super stretched. So in this video, it looks like the same thing has happened to the warden's neck, and the warden's dancing around as he's saying unlock the path in his own weird language. But actually, even though it looks a lot like the warden, I think that the other thing it looks like is the Mourner pottery shard. The Mourner is a pottery shard that, according to the wiki, depicts a mob from the upcoming game, Dungeons 2, and so if this is a mob we already believe to be in Dungeons 2, and if this is something that is clearly linked to the portal, maybe the Mourner is something on the other side of the portal, something the warden would be protecting you from. This is the start of the lore that comes out of the Ancient City portal, but the truth is, it's very hard to know more until Dungeons 2, something that has many people up in arms, because, you know, Dungeons 2 is a very exciting Minecraft property. Again, after Minecraft Legends, I'll be honest, everyone's hype is lower though, so many people are saying, oh great, Minecraft have finally made a new dimension, but they're doing it for Dungeons 2. But hear me out here, I don't think that that is necessarily true. It is true that this teaser was just for Dungeons 2. If you've been told that it is coming to the base game, then they're either trolling or they're using copium, or maybe a little combination of both. But what I will say is that it is entirely possible, maybe even probable, that if they take something as major as the Ancient City portal and put it into Minecraft Dungeons 2, it's a great way for them to experiment with what the dimension means, meaning that one day they could bring it to Minecraft. But two, it is a bit weird to add a whole new dimension to a game that will not be coming to Minecraft. I think that it's possible. Minecraft Dungeons 1 added a lot of features that weren't in the base game, but I think it would be so insanely tone deaf right now to say, it'd be tone diff. That's how badly tone deaf it would have to be. I think that it would be insane to do. I'm not saying that they won't do it. I feel like when it comes to Minecraft updates, they really do have an understanding of the game that is so different to us. I don't necessarily think that it's right or wrong. I just think it's weird. But maybe, just maybe, the sign of the Ancient City portal coming to Minecraft Dungeons 2 is a sign that they're playing around with the idea and what it means for the vanilla game, because it is meant to be one, at least, connected universe. And speaking of connected universes, can I show you the wild world of how the last of the Tiny Takeover might have been a reference to what is coming now in the Chaos Cubed update? Let me show you what I mean by that, because this is a librarian villager. If you don't know, they are about to change him, one of many changes that you should be prepared for, but they're going to be changing him so that the top level trade will be different. If you want to get him with a name tag, you're going to need to make that trade fairly soon, because soon it won't be possible. Instead, what you'll find at that very top level is red or yellow candles. If you're playing Bedrock, that is. If you're playing Java, you can get red, yellow candles and a enchanted book, but obviously Java and Bedrock have to be different. That is the unofficial goal of Mojang. But what's interesting is red and yellow candles are a really weird color choice, because people said, oh, so you can have ketchup and mustard bottles, but actually think about this, maybe it's red and yellow candles specifically as a reference to the ketchup and mustard caves. They gave us the bottles as a tiny little hint, or at least a reference in some way to what was coming in the future. There is a tiny chance this is a pure coincidence that they really did just want people to have ketchup and mustard bottles, or indeed maybe they just think red and yellow is the color of Mojang, but I think it's or indeed the color of the librarian, but I think it's absolutely wild to say that something in the Tiny Takeover must have been a reference, or at least seems like it was a reference to the Chaos Cubed update. And while we're talking about the Chaos Cubed update and, the chiseled blocks we mentioned earlier, I want to talk about something really weird that you might not have thought about. Oh, look how weird it is to walk with 2 blocks, by the way. Dual wielding is definitely coming to Bedrock, just probably not in this update. They are doing the groundwork, though. It's very exciting. I mentioned this a few times on the channel, so make sure to go back and watch that. But it is one of those, lightly confirmed, but very hard to talk about with a direct source sort of things. So just, you gotta trust me, I guess, on that one. But you know what else you should trust me about? The fact that no matter what drop is announced by Mojang, there is going to be huge backlash. This already existed in the update system, but now that drops are smaller and more frequent, we get to have this discussion 4 times a year instead of once, which is basically the Minecraft community is so big, there are always going to be people hugely disappointed. I mean, even on the basic level, if you might say, well, clearly Mojang are lazy, so many people are like, why are they ruining the soul of my block game by adding too many new blocks to it? And some people say, why are they adding new things when there are so many existing things that need fixing, i.e. the end or enchantments or so many different parts of the fishing, etc. There are so many things that you can point to say that yes, Minecraft needs an update. And so I would like to, cut through all of that with a fun anecdote that comes from one of the Minecraft programmers, because they responded to my tweet saying, call it Caves and Cliffs Part 6 or 7 if you must, but this is one of the best drop announcements we've seen so far. I did qualify that by saying, yes, within the drop system, which has been a lot of very small updates, this is one of the better and bigger ones, which is kind of a sad thing in its own right. But the more interesting thing here is Alexander Torsling responded by saying an anecdote about how this relates a bit to Caves and Cliffs is the old/new world blending tech that was developed to handle the Caves and Cliffs upgrade comes in handy when we insert new biomes in existing world gen like this. In other words, saying that because of the Caves and Cliffs update, they can now add a biome whenever they want, making making it far easier to add the sulfur caves than it ever would have been before. And so this is kind of the Caves and Cliffs update part 7, which is why I'd like to propose an idea, because I mean, it's just so obvious looking at this update. You can see like, oh yeah, wouldn't it be really cool? You know, they're adding all these new blocks for the sulfur and all these new blocks for the cinnabar, but doesn't it then make just a little bit of sense, at least some sense, for them also to go back and to fix the consistency problem within existing underground blocks? The big ones I'd point to are andesite, diorite, and granite, and so here's Brookan Yumi, who has actually made a version of what a chisel version of each of those blocks could look like, alongside a brick. I think they look incredible and would be a great way to show the zombie, the spider, and the skeleton for more, you know, kind of generic looking blocks in the game. And honestly, I think that these are the sorts of things that could easily get those small little easy wins in there, because I think that this is the weird thing about Mojang. From an outside perspective, it makes very little sense that, like, yeah, these are all features and things that people can mock up inside of a day or two. But now, the consideration of how fast you can do it is probably not the most important thing if you're an employee of a company. Instead, it is like, well, you got to get it done and get it done right and make sure that there's no bugs on both platforms. These are things we all care about and should care about. But then there are the second level considerations of like, well, you've got to make sure that your manager's manager thinks that this looks good. You got to make sure that some layers of bureaucracy are up and down the chain think that this looks great and that you're communicating in the right ways and that it goes through the committees that it needs to go through. And I think as a result, things can be a little bit slower than makes some sense. But also, I do believe that there are going to be lots of fun things worked out within the sulfur cubes, within those sulfur caves, and maybe within some additional features. Who knows what those might include, but we can keep our fingers crossed. I think the one that we can be most hopeful about seems to be the sulfur spider, or indeed the sulfur beetle, as might be more likely. I think there is going to be some form of new bug. I think there's going to be some more interesting mechanic with putting things in the sulfur, or maybe taking the sulfur out and doing other things with it, but we'll have to wait and see to learn more. Maybe we'll only be waiting till Wednesday this week, but I'll let you know when that comes out. Just like how I have to let you know that the Minecraft world has started appearing on Chessington World of Adventure maps. It's spawning in 2027 and they've put the Minecraft mobs on there already. This is kind of cute in my opinion, but you know what else is cute, or maybe the exact opposite? It's a weird story to do with the Minecraft experience Moonlit Trail. You might recall that this is coming to Buenos Aires, and a student of the university, which will actually be hosting it, decided to post this on Reddit. So this is from CubeCraft333. They say that they are going to be hosting the Moonlight Trail outdoors in a forest in Buenos Aires, but they forgot to mention that the forest is a nature reserve within a public university campus. This is something which the student body of the university has called for action against it, because they say it's a nature reserve, and beyond the obvious ecological impacts, this project would harm students trying to attend classes. The campus doesn't have dorms, and it's hard to access for most as it's far away from the city centre and other high density areas. It's often humorously called Siberia because of this, and the huge amount of visitors from the Minecraft experience will almost certainly clog transit and public transport to the college, making a non-ideal situation even worse. That is right, the students of the university do not want it built there, but the more important thing here is the fact that they are saying it is on a nature reserve, which just, I kind of want to do the lazy thing here and say this is a slam dunk. Like, Mojang spends years trying to teach us how bad it is when you harm the environment. They spend years trying to teach us about how important it is to have bees and how great this is, but actually what they've done is they've built a tourist trap on a nature reserve. I could entirely just end the video there. Slam dunk, Mojang bad, and people love it when you have that as the ending, but I'm also a believer that it's important to actually, if we're going to share news here, it's important we share the full side, not just the most convenient side. So let's talk about the fact that, you know, maybe CubeCraft333 isn't so keen at sharing, because it's entirely valid to say that yes, Minecraft experience is going to be hosted on the city university right here, and given that we know the Minecraft experience is in a forest like this, then we can make the reasonable guess that this forest is going to be this Reserva Ecologica Ciudad. That it's going to be the city's university nature reserve, and so they're building on a nature reserve, it's true, but the other concern that he has is one of those crazy things that people just say as a way to be against something, you know, like, oh, we're living out in Siberia and there's no buses out here and they're all going to be filled with tourists taking up our spots so we can't get to university. Well, actually, there's a bunch of buses that go to the university. You can see looking at any of these stops how many different buses there actually are. there's a bunch of buses, but also there's a major train station here. Like, the City University is literally 2 stops and what have I done to Google Maps? The City University is on a train line that goes way out to the suburbs here, but also that goes into the center, which you can do in literally 12 minutes plus the 2-minute walk. So this is actually, to be fair, from there it's going to be a bit trickier to get if you want to be in the shopping district or in Montserrat or a Balvanera or whatever. But like, actually, it is a decently well-connected place that goes right past one of the airports and one of these major parks here. So I think that this is just it's a valid concern, but that's like the city's problem to fix, right? The city should put on more trains if there are so few. I mean, let's look. What does a train even look like in Buenos Aires? Ooh, yeah. Oh, this is an interesting train if you ask me. But not a trains video. But what I do have to say is the fact that I think that obviously this is a city problem that's very easily fixed. Put on a few more buses or a few more trains. But the other thing that I think is interesting is the idea that they're building on a national on this ecological reserve. But first of all, look how tiny this ecological reserve is. Like, it's literally I think saying it's an ecological reserve doesn't do justice to the fact that it's 680 meters wide and also about what is this? Like, at its widest point, maybe 500 meters wide. So this is a tiny ecological reserve. And even if it wasn't a tiny ecological reserve, the truth is, weirdly, we build on these things all the time. This sounds incredible because, again, if you've ever been to a national park, the point is there's nothing around you. It's just nature. But actually, no, you build in national parks all the time. Think about the hotels, or even like you can go skiing in national parks, at least in Europe. I think in America, but don't quote me on that. Your mileage may vary based on your continent, but national parks should be all about protecting the environment fully, but usually they're not all about that. Look, we built a phone box in the national park over here, the UK's highest phone box. Wow, now you know. But like, yeah, truth be told, you can go skiing in national parks. Businesses open up in national parks all the time, so it's not actually that rough of a thing. Some people would say like, but actually Minecraft loves the environment. But again, this is actually a way to care for the environment. By supporting the businesses in the national parks that have to pay their licensing fees to the preservation trusts or whatever, that could be a good thing. In this case, the problem is that it's paying to a university that the students don't really like, but that is then a separate issue to, is Minecraft destroying an ecological reserve? Because it seems as though the answer is like, well, they're not going to destroy it, are they? I mean, unless you're allowed to chop down the trees. I don't think you are. Then as long as they are leaving it in its same state, that would be fine. And that's all I think Minecraft technically has to confirm is, are they going to destroy the ecological reserve? Because if not, they're doing a better job than this phone. You know, this phone box, right? This phone box has destroyed the ground below it. There's no grass there anymore, and there won't be for a long time. But it's a nice phone box. Speaking of nice phone boxes, I would like to recap this video to remind you that Minecraft is working on a big new drop that we're about to see soon, and honestly, I think the fact that it's a big drop is something that is really worth doing some soul searching on, because it genuinely could come out in its current form and it would still be either the second or the third biggest drop, maybe by some metrics the first if we use the number of blocks. And that is something really fascinating. And I'm still absorbing that fully, that like, this is a good drop, but if this is a good drop, then what does that mean? But yeah, I am very excited for these brand new ketchup and mustard blocks. I am very excited for Dungeons 2, and I'm excited to play around with this new physics guy. So the moment he comes out, I'm excited. Also, I'm excited for the new cave generation. I think it is cool that they can just now go back and add a new cave to the generation without messing everything up. So yeah, I look forward to seeing you as we play around with those snapshots, but later. Thank you, and goodbye.